sport fans watching around the world. This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Let's get straight into the episode.
Yeah, we heading for the sun. Shawty got my high, I ain't tripping for the funds. Yeah, I won't start, I ain't tripping, I'm a stun.
Alright y'all, today's a Monday and Mondays are for Docs. Thank you for clicking or tapping and let's start today's spew. And guys, I already know that you know who it is. You've read the title of the video. I'm very happy to be welcoming to the Doxcast for the very first time, Justin Holland.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much for coming out here, dude. How far did you have to travel to get here?
About 47 minutes.
Oh, yeah, good effort.
Yeah, so
thank you.
This morning I had to do a coaching session. I was like, okay, I have to make sure I finish on this time so I can quickly go home and have a shower just so I can make my way into this podcast.
Yeah, nice. Well, I really appreciate the effort. I'm always grateful for that. Whereabouts are you situated? Like, where do you live?
I don't know if you know Abbotsbury.
I don't think so.
Cecil Hills, Wetherill Park.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that area.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, nice. I do so much work out in Wetherill Park. I've done heaps of work. But, yeah, it's a bit of a mission. So, yeah, appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, sweet. I had something I wanted to read out. I usually make notes and points and things like that just for me to refer back to. Sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't. But I wrote something out in particular. I wanted to read it to you. You might know what it is, but I've changed the words a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It says 3 times Commonwealth Games athlete, 16 times Australian national champion wrestler, former and now returned podcast host and actor.
Yes.
And that is a pretty awesome bio, dude. I think that's crazy.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
And just to clarify that, it's like 2 times Commonwealth Games athlete in the senior level and 1 time Commonwealth Games athlete in the youth level, because I know there's going to be some critics out there saying, no, he's a 2-time Commonwealth Games athlete, not 3.
Yeah.
You always have like those critics out there that are on the ball with everything you say and put out there.
Oh, it's like, well, if I didn't do it, who else did it? Like, it was me that did it 3 times.
Exactly. But yeah, it's like been a long, crazy journey, and no one really knows the sacrifice, what it takes to be able to get there, the hours you have to put in. You understand by being able to start this podcast and stay consistent on a weekly basis. And wrestling was pretty much the same for me. I was like training 2 to 3 times a day, 6 days a week, hardly missed a session, and was always sticking to the grind. And I was a big believer in like manifestation as well. So at the age of 15, I watched The Secret.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember writing down all my goals, and I decided to go out and try to achieve my goals. So I stuck to training, competed in all those competitions, and it helped me pave my way into the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, wow. Damn. Oh, man, you've given me so much that I want to go down already. Just manifestation. These are conversations that I really enjoy having, and even saying The Secret is the thing that got you into it in the first place. The last guest that I had on, which I only recorded I think last night, he told me that's what got him started on his journey of manifestation too. And I was like, man, I've got to read this book. Like this, this is going to be a great book. I've had it on my list for ages, but I do want to come into this manifestation topic and what it takes to be able to go to Commonwealth Games and along this as well. But I thought I'd kind of reverse engineer this bio first and start with acting, if that's all right.
No, that's fine.
I noticed that it's got Sydney Acting Studio in relation to your Instagram.
Yes.
What's your relation with a Sydney Acting Studio?
Okay, so before starting at Sydney Acting Studios, I just recently finished competing at the Commonwealth Games, and I came back from Europe after living there for about 4 months, and I was just deciding what I wanted to do with myself. So I just remember just sitting there, just thinking, praying to God, just trying to figure out what do I need to do to progress forward in my life. And it's funny, I found this old picture, and it goes back to when I was a kid, when I had dyslexia and a speech impairment. And we found this actor that had the same problem. His name is Henry Winkler. So he's an actor that acted in Happy Days, what was the other, Click, and all those big productions.
Oh, yeah.
And he also had dyslexia. My mum actually wrote an email to him, and he actually sent me his autograph saying, Justin, the world is yours. Go and get it.
Wow.
And I remember finding that, and at that same time, I ended up finding a advertisement for an extras agency. Mm-hmm. So I ended up signing up for that, And then the following day, I got a call to work on The Fall Guy, the new movie that's out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
a photo of that actually.
It was a pretty cool
That's
experience.
awesome. That Ryan Gosling movie, hey.
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah,
And it was a
yeah.
cool experience being able to meet him too, because I remember just going onto set and I met these 3 other guys and I was just talking to them, and this co-director came in. He was like, "Okay, guys, what we're gonna do here? We're gonna go past the tables, and then from there, Winston's gonna step back, and then we're gonna get that shot." It's like, "Okay, guys, you ready? Okay, let's go." And then he just walked past that thing, and then the camera just shined on Ryan Gosling, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is
Yeah,
like
wow.
amazing."
Yeah.
And ended up working there for 20 days, and I was like, "Okay, I need to be able to study acting." So that's where I found Sydney Acting Studios, and yeah, they really helped me progress forward in my acting and being able to land an agent. I ended up doing a commercial, a YouTube promotion, and 2 short films, and one of them
Wow.
is currently in production.
Wow, that's a lot because I know this Ryan Gosling film was only filmed last year.
Yes.
Yeah, because I was working on site with a guy who was doing the tiling, I think, on this supermarket, and he's like this big giant guy. Like, he's just covered in the tattoos in these places, and I'm thinking to myself like, don't really want to get on this guy's bad side. He's like 6'4", just looks angry all the time, and I'm just like, I kind of just had a little bit of a conversation with him, and he's telling me, yeah, I'm going to do a bit of acting tomorrow. I was like, what do you mean act? He's like, oh, there's this Ryan Gosling film coming out. My missus signed me up for it. And I'm like, what the hell? I was like, I don't even know what role he did or what he played, but apparently he had to wear like he described it as like some sweatsuit, and it was a hot day. I think he was near the city on the Harbour Bridge or something. I can't remember where he was, but yeah, it wasn't that long ago. So to get so many things since then is pretty awesome. You know, that's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I think he was an alien.
Okay,
From the sounds
yeah,
of
he
it.
must have been. He must have been an alien. Yeah,
Yeah.
so the movie out at the cinemas now?
It's out in cinemas now, so it's been
I'm
out
gonna watch
for
it.
the past month.
Yeah, nice. I need to watch it then. Yeah, I'll definitely watch it. I'll keep my eyes out for you as well.
Yeah, for sure. I'm more
Yeah.
towards the end of the movie.
Yeah, cool. Sydney Acting Studio, I've actually got a bit of a relation with that as well. Like, one of my closest friends, he actually works out of there. His name's Seth Aaron.
We used to do the Friday class together.
Oh, nice. Yeah, sweet. Yeah, Seth's my boy. I love that kid. I've been down there twice to watch 2 plays that they've done. One was the 12 Angry Jurors, and the other one was some Russian French. I have no idea, to be honest, what it's called or what it was about.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because that's when I signed up to Sydney Acting Studios right after that actual play.
Okay, yeah, cool. Wow. Yeah, that's great. Such a small world, eh? As soon as I seen that in your Instagram, I was like on your LinkedIn and stuff like that, and I was like, it's in the acting studio. I was like, clicked on that, scrolling down. I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is Seth. And then, yeah, I seen the photo of Seth, and I was like, yeah. And it takes one person to know anyone else in the whole world. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I remember meeting Seth, and I was just watching him act. Obviously, he's a great actor. And as soon as I heard him speak, he has that theater voice.
Yeah.
And the way he carries himself.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
He's a good kid. He's a good
He
kid. He
is.
definitely is. I've actually just recently went to Des Moines. I think they had a bit of a someone had a housewarming party or something there. So I stopped in and I saw a bunch of the people that were there from the 12 Angry Jurors from back in the day. It was kind of like, it's like seeing a celebrity in a way. You know what I mean? Like, I watched this person in a play one time.
Yeah,
It was
100%.
It's pretty cool.
It feels like surreal sometimes, especially seeing like people you were inspired by or just seen in a play. It's like, wow, like I'm actually here. Like, it's kind of like you manifested it into reality.
Yeah, it was awesome. With these things that you've done since then, like the 2 short films and the YouTube promotion and the ad, was it a TV ad? What was the ad?
Oh, so it was IHT Hotel and Resorts.
Okay.
So it was like a summer ad. So from that one, I was playing a husband and had a wife, a kid in the actual production, and we actually stayed in a penthouse
Wow. Yeah,
for
nice.
it, which was like so good.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. What? So is your first experience since doing the Commonwealth Games, is all of this acting new since then, or did you have any experience from when you were younger?
A little bit when I was younger. So before I started wrestling, I always wanted to get into acting. So when I was a kid, obviously I told you before I had dyslexia and a speech impairment, right? So I always was bullied and I never could really fit in. So at school, I'd never had any friends. So my escape was watching movies and becoming these characters. And I still remember the first character I became was like a lot of people look up to superheroes like Superman, Batman. I actually looked up to Mr. Bean.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wore his suit, his tie, his suitcase, had his teddy bear, and I had a little like yellow toy car.
Yeah.
And if anyone was to speak to me, they had to call me Bean. Otherwise, I wouldn't talk to them.
Yeah.
And after that, I just started fantasizing over being all these different characters, and I ended up starting acting class at probably about 5 or 6 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, so did that for about a year, and I remember right before I started wrestling at 11 or 12 years old, I ended up getting approached by a few acting agencies and casting directors in the States. But obviously we didn't stay there for too long.
Yeah.
So I ended up leaving, and yeah, it's kind of funny too. Right before I started wrestling, I got into watching WWE through my
Yeah.
cousins. So I remember I was so fascinated by wrestling, I wanted to be able to start it. And I ended up going on to, I don't know if you know AOL.
Oh, I'm not sure.
So it's like dial-up internet
Okay.
back then. And ended up finding a place in Cabramatta, PCYC. But I thought it was professional wrestling.
Yeah.
So I ended up showing up to my first session dressed up like The Undertaker. So I had black singlet, black jeans, bandana, chain, his gloves. And the coach was looking at me, he's like, Justin, this is not fake wrestling. This is the real wrestling. So I did my first session in
so
jeans.
That's so funny. Far out. And that's how I got started. That's sick. That's sick. I remember I didn't even get into wrestling until I was like, I reckon I would have been like 15 the first time I watched it, and I fell in love with it. It was so good. Like WWE, too. Not
Yes.
real wrestling. WWE, yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I remember being a kid too and looking up at movies, and I remember I'd hang around with lots of kids and they were similar with, they wanted to be Spider-Man, they wanted to be fucking Superman, and honestly, who I wanted to be? I wanted to be Troy Bolton from High School Musical.
Wow.
That's it.
That's an interesting one.
That's it. I wanted to have Gabriella as my girlfriend. I wanted to be Troy Bolton. that's who I wanted to be.
Man, that's so good.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I have there's a girl in one of my classes on Saturday. Her name's Gabriella, and she looks like Vanessa Hudgens as well.
Wow.
So
Wow.
every time I see her, I was like, "Oh, you're from High School Musical."
Yeah. Yeah, well, man, if I met that guy, I think I'd marry her straight away.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. All right, well, you obviously had some skill doing so and some practice when you were younger, doing the things like acting and obviously watching it growing up. But then since coming out of the Commonwealth Games and going to Sydney Acting Studio, was it what you were expecting it to be and what you imagined the pursuit of acting would be, or is it a completely different thing than you imagined?
It's everything you imagine it to be, plus so much more. Mm-hmm. I feel it helps you to find your inner truth and being able to be more truthful under a circumstance, right? And
Oh, I know what you... Sorry, I had to cut you off. You just made
good.
me remember something, yeah. You go.
no, it's all right. So obviously you need to be able to work off the other person's behavior and help the other person's performance to be so much better. And if you can help the other actor, it's going to help your own performance as well. And it's being able to buy into the circumstances like as if it's actually happening.
Yeah. That's what I remember. Seth actually told me this a long time ago when I was asking him questions, because I find acting so interesting. That's why I'm trying to pick your brain about it, because it's something that I kind of think that I might have to do at least one time just to tick off that curiosity meter. I don't plan on being an actor or in movies or anything. I just really want to try the experience. And he was explaining to me that, and it's almost the way he explained it sounded like you don't actually act, you more feel it as real as possible. So you might be going through a scene where someone died, but that feeling of loss, you might not know what that feels like, so you relate that to the feeling of a heartbreak where you've lost someone or you've lost a job, and you really find that true feeling of what it's like to lose something, for the first. I'm like, it's not even acting then. Like you're actually
Yeah.
just expressing.
Imagine it like this. It's you in a alternate dimension, right? It's you playing as if you were actually Spider-Man or if you were Troy Bolton.
Yeah.
How would
that's
you
it.
be in that circumstance if you were a basketball player that became a singer on the side and end up dating a beautiful Spanish girl?
Yeah. Paint me my dream, dude. Paint me my dream. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, in that sense, then, if it's so much more than what you expected, what are some of the things that you weren't expecting it to be that it now is?
I feel it helped me for my life in a different way where, like I said before, you are able to identify people's behaviors so quickly that sometimes you don't even have to think about it, right? And I remember a teacher once told me, his name's Luke Ford, so he was on The Mummy 3, and he's also been in other big productions as well. It's like a lot of people get into acting to be able to act, but most people go into acting to be able to express the deepest truth in terms of being able to step into being authentic,
Wow.
right? And if you're not actually authentic, people are gonna buy off that you're bullshitting because people have like a bullshit detector, and most likely that movie won't get that great reviews because you weren't really buying into the circumstance, right? But if you learn how to be able to tell the truth and your deepest truth and not covering it up with a persona, that's where your best performances come out.
Wow. And then does that obviously help in your every day-to-day life with experiences and interactions with people outside of having it filmed?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Damn, that's awesome. I need to go. I need to one day cross this acting thing off my list. So it's on my bucket list of items I need to do, but I think it'd be an amazing experience.
Oh, definitely.
For someone who does want to just get into it and give it a go, what do you think someone's first steps would be?
I'll just tell them exactly what I did. Probably join a extras agency, work on set, see how you feel being on set. If you like it, great. Then it's for you. Then you just need to sign up for an acting school and just start pursuing your dreams and eventually be able to just go out and try to network with people, because networking is key, right? If you're not going out and socializing and meeting all these people, you won't put yourself in the right position in order for you to get these, like your own agent, to be able to build relationship with casting directors, producers, directors, and from there, that's where you're going to start landing more jobs, right? So as long as they can follow a certain curriculum like that, it will help them a lot. But there's no set way to success, really.
Yeah.
It's like everyone has their own journey to be able to get to the top.
Yeah, I know. And it's like you kind of have to make your own opportunities, don't you? It is all about networking. That's the more I'm learning when I'm through doing this podcasting. It's just who you know. It's got nothing to do with what you learn, what you can do. It's just who you know. That's the secret to everything, isn't
That's
it?
That's it. And also the 5 people you surround yourself with every single day as well.
Yeah, I was a big believer in that not being true for a long time. Like I thought to myself for pretty much, and I've said it on the podcast for over a year and a half. Like I believe you're a contraption of every single individual you've ever met, and the 5 people you spend the most time with necessarily don't play a big fact in that. But the more I think about it, the more I realize, no, it's 100% accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every person does play a part that you meet. You know, they can help mold you to become someone like them or further away from someone like them. But really, like I spend the most amount of time with my mum, my dad, my brother, and my sister, and we all share the exact same personality traits.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I feel like you said it perfectly, because I remember attending a Tony Robbins event. It's called Date of Destiny.
Yeah.
And he was explaining that, like, you're a product of your environment. So every single moment in history, every person you met, you picked up and learned something from them. And then you carry that to today as well. So even right before you're born, from like your parents having conversations, your mum having conversations with people at work, all that forms who you are through genetics as well.
Yeah, that's true. I think about that too. I think every experience my mum and dad went through in order before I was even conceived, I'd have to be a repercussion of every one of those experiences. I've actually been looking into this study for a while that isn't yet publicized because it's not got enough scientific backing, so it's just theoretical for the moment. But they believe that whatever mental state people are in when they decide to have a child for the first time, like it might just be like for the weeks leading up to it, up until the point of conception, carried out through the pregnancy, but it's the mindset before you even have the child. That's what the child's going to become like as a early adult. And I'm like, damn, like there's obviously no science behind that. It's a pretty hard thing to measure, but the theoretical concept is like pretty believable for me.
It is. And a lot to do with spirituality as well.
Definitely.
I find it. It's funny, like pursuing acting or being an athlete. I had my parents say to me, it's like, that was something I wanted to do growing up.
Wow.
Exactly what I'm doing. And it's like, oh, wow. So something spiritually passed on what they wanted to do onto me.
Yeah.
For me to take the action.
Was it like your mum wanted to do the acting, dad wanted to do the athlete, or was it like both, either one?
I think they both wanted to do acting. My dad wanted to be more of a stunt performer.
Yep.
So a little bit about my dad. So he was a Muay Thai coach.
Okay.
And he trained Australia's first world champion in kickboxing.
Wow.
As well as like 6 other world champions. So he was the athlete, and through my grandparents as well, they were athletes on his side.
Wow.
And my mum is more of a spiritual being.
Yeah.
Where she's quite intuitive and she likes to be able to read people and connect with people, and I feel I got that from her.
Yeah, damn. Nice.
That's where the acting comes from.
Yeah, that's sick. I feel like we're going to go down into a spiritual conversation definitely towards the later half of this podcast. I'm going to try and make sure I learned as much as I wanted to learn before I get there. With acting too, and I was kind of going to segue this into the next conversation, but I find that most people like myself who have even had the idea but have never done it are usually fearful of being seen. It comes from like a fear of judgment at the end of the day. And I think that's why a lot of people don't post on social media and why we have so much more consumers than we have contributors. And it was my acknowledgement and awareness of that fact that made me pull my finger out and start contributing towards the social media beast that I love consuming so much of. And I think in doing so, it's kind of helped me propel myself forward into a position of like, yeah, I can see myself at least trying things like stand-up comedy or acting or things that it's like, I might not get the response I want, but I'm not really too concerned anymore, you know? So I'm wondering, do you think, and having a podcast yourself and hosting, do you think that they kind of come from that same muscle where it's like you have put yourself out there in the first place and it's not too much to worry about what most people worry about?
Yeah, I feel a lot of people are more worried about what their life is about, right? Everyone's worried about their own problems. Yeah, they might judge you for like 3 to 10 seconds, but they're going to forget about you a minute later.
Yeah.
Unless they scroll down to your content again, really.
Yeah.
So I look at it now as I matured over time. It's not about worrying what people think or seeking their validation. It's how I can impact someone's life to be able to inspire them to be a better version of themselves. And as long as I can focus on doing that, it puts me better in a better position where I can actually perform and serve people. And I think that's something I've learned through doing public speaking and attending like a lot of like personal development like seminars.
Yeah, definitely. I haven't been to any personal development seminars yet, but you mentioned the Tony Robbins one before as well. I think who's coming next is, I think David Goggins is about to come do a personal development course. I'm thinking I might go to that one too. Yeah, definitely.
That would be sick.
Yeah, that would be crazy. The point I was just thinking on before as well was with people putting themselves out there and fear of what people are going to say in reciprocation of that. I was listening to maybe this 2 days ago. It was a podcast and this guy was talking about the difference between reputation and characteristics. So characteristics is the type of thing you do when no one's watching. So if you're driving a car and you throw a soda can out the window and no one's there to watch you do it, that's your actual characteristics. But if you've got your kids in the back seat, you're not going to do it because all of a sudden you're a bad guy and that's your reputation. So I think a lot of people probably live their life based on what they think their reputation is instead of what their actual characteristics are.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm trying to mostly focus my own thought power towards. Not really too concerned about my reputation. Like, let's just focus on what I would do when no one's looking. And that's why now when no one's looking, I'm trying not to pick my nose as much. Even though no one's,
Damn.
when no one's looking, I can't help myself. I got to do it. Yeah, but I think behind closed doors, and if you can really work on that, then maybe you wouldn't be too concerned about what people would think when people are watching, you know?
Yeah, I think for myself as well, I'm coming to terms with that as well. Like going back into good habits, and what you do behind the scenes creates who you are today, right? So if you focus on eating healthy, training, and putting yourself into this certain character, you're going to become this character later down the track. So a lot of people focus on what the result is, but they don't worry about who you become in the process. So it's more focusing on who you become in the process that is the most important. And it's like what you said about like hating as well. People, yeah, they might hate you in the beginning, but that's a good thing. They're going to talk about you, right? And it's like playing a video game. Like, you know, you're heading the right direction is when you're heading towards the enemies that are coming at you.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're so right. I kind of have that personality trait myself, though. I do find myself watching people online that I look up to, motivational speakers or, you know, high-performing individuals, and I see the lifestyles in which they live, and I try and implement that into my own life, and then I jump way too quickly into the deep end, and I try and take on way too much workload than I even have the physical capability of doing, because I haven't yet learnt the strength or the muscle or the skill or the time allocation or any of the above. And then it's kind of like, you're right, though. It's all about becoming that individual in order to be that individual. You can't just wake up one day and be a high achieving successful person. You have to become the high achieving successful person in the process.
That's it.
Oh, well, so long, but
Yeah, that's it. It's about embracing the suck at the beginning, but over time, you just got to get better. And like you said, you're going to train the muscle to become that person you need to be.
Yeah.
Right? Everything takes time. I didn't say I'm going to join wrestling today and I'm going to go Commonwealth Games tomorrow. That was like 10 years in the process.
Yeah, damn. All right, well, I'll tell you what, I'm almost at the wrestling part. I want to get to wrestling in a second. Then I want to talk first because we were mentioning and bring up like contributing towards the social media beast and podcasting and things like this. So take me back, because I know that you've got, I think I saw 5 or 6 episodes out for the Path show.
7.
7?
Yeah, 7.
Yeah, cool. So take me back. And I also noticed on your casting network, I think it was called. Yeah, casting network. It says former podcast host and co-radio host.
Yes.
So take me back to the first place then. Where did this origin story start?
Okay, so it was kind of funny. It was when I was doing a lot of personal training, right? And I was doing like something crazy, like 40 sessions a week doing personal training, and I was a fitness manager. I was working a constant like 80 hours a week on a regular basis.
Wow.
And I was like to myself, I don't think I want to do this much longer. I feel depressed. And I just remember going to La Perouse, and there was a full moon that night, and it was just glaring on the actual water. And I was like saying, like, universe, like, God, I want change. I just don't know what I need to do in order to make the change. I leave everything in your hands, and I trust in you. And I just remember going into a full, deep conversation by myself. I felt like I was putting my message out there. And once I got in the car, one of my friends, he ended up calling me. He's like, Justin, I have a great idea, but I can't tell you over the phone. Let's meet up tomorrow at Parramatta.
Bro,
Yeah.
This is beautiful. Yeah.
It was crazy because we ended up meeting that day, and we ended up eating at Alex & Co. It's like, okay, Justin, I have a great idea. Let's start a podcast. I can't see myself doing it with anyone else but you.
Wow.
And we were just trying to figure out the name for it. So I just remember we were walking down the river, and we both agreed we wanted to talk about success. but we didn't know how to name it. And then we thought, you know what? I think he thought of millennial. It's like millennial success. That's a ring to it. And then we end up interviewing a guy I already interviewed on my first episode of the Path Talk Show, Thomas Malacelli. That's how I remember him.
Yeah.
And he was just doing network marketing at the time. And then from there, we ended up doing 50 episode in 30 days.
Wow.
Just doing all remote. So we got to interview Matthew Lepre, Iman Ghatzi, Peter Torden, a few billionaires, a lot of millionaires.
Wow.
Just because they weren't doing anything during COVID time.
Yeah.
So we had so much access to all these people. And we kind of really got to understand the matrix of social media.
Yeah.
And how it works and how all these people gain a quick following and how people actually set up their online business to be able to succeed. And yeah, one of my mates is now focusing on building like entrepreneur events down in Dubai.
Wow.
And yeah, like it opened so many doors just by doing that. And that actually opened me to do a bit of radio in Liverpool. So probably about 5 times a year, I'm just like a co-host doing some like radio, like interviews with different people within like the Western Sydney like suburbs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
and
is
is that
pretty
also
cool.
focused on success type of
Yeah.
individuals? Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. And how did that come into fruition as well?
I was just messaging people to see if they were interested in joining my coaching program.
Yeah.
And end up just socializing with one of these guys online, and he's like, you know what, I want you on my radio show, so come in, we'll interview you first. So he interviewed me with his co-host and he's like, I really like your persona, your aura. I'm going to get you in as like a co-host probably a couple of times a year just so you can help me out,
Yeah.
like interviewing people.
Yeah, damn, dude. That's a good hustle too. Be able to get 50 episodes banged out in how long did you say? 30?
30 days.
Yeah, 30
And then we
days.
did like another 30 episodes after that. And then from there, we just stopped it and we kind of went through our own like coaching adventures.
Yeah, yeah. Damn, that's awesome. And what a blessing to be able to do that through a time in which most people were not socializing at all with anyone. This is before I did the podcast, and I don't know if I would have made that leap if I had already started to start doing things online, or if I would have waited until everything kind of cleared up, or maybe I would have just snuck some of the boys over every once a week and like underground tunnels. I would have made something, but we would have made
100%.
it. Yeah, yeah. What was some of the crazy things you learned in doing that around the topics that you say with success, like networking, and how you said you learned what the power of social media was and how businesses can use it to grow? What are some of the things that you learned around that?
The dark side of it, or you want to know just good ways to build up your social media?
Bad news is always good first, so we can
Okay.
finish on good news.
So obviously a lot of the influence you see on social media are people having 100 to 200k followers aren't always authentic followers.
Okay,
Right. So a lot of them end up hiring like PR agents, and the PR agents usually buy a lot of like bots saying they're real followers,
Yeah.
and a lot of people build their following throughout that way, right? Or people end up using celebrity giveaways to build their audience. So to invest into celebrity giveaways, you probably have to invest 15k. No, yeah, about from 3 to 15k, depending on how large you want to build your audience.
And
right?
how does a celebrity giveaway work? Like I know you.
Okay, so you probably seen those advertisements or those stories on Instagram where it's like we're giving away $10,000 worth of equipment.
Yeah.
But in order to win this $10,000 worth of equipment, you have to like this post, comment 3 names below, share a story, and you have to follow these people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you follow these people, that's how they build their following.
Damn, that's a smart idea though. That is such a smart idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my friend ended up dabbling into that for a bit. So he was like working in PR and he was getting a lot of people verified on Instagram before Meta verified exists. So
Yeah.
people like investing 15 to 26k just to get a blue tick
Oh.
on Instagram.
Wow. And now it's just a paid membership.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Different world now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. And what are some of the good? So that's obviously one of the negative side of things, because it isn't really what you see. What you see isn't what you get. So what are some of the cool things you learned as well about networking and things with that?
I think that's a big thing. Like, obviously, running a podcast, you have the leverage to be able to get these guests on and interview them, right? Because it's free content.
Yeah.
And from there, what you didn't have access to before, because you have a podcast, you have access to now. And from there, you're able to build your audience through that way.
I think that the authentic route to attention is always going to be my number one form of pursuit in doing so. It's like, I know I can create more reach and I can create more gauge and audience by doing things like asking clickbaity kind of questions or tiling videos in different ways, or even as small as like I tried things along the lines, so like paid promotion type clips, or I've like just tried boosting them every now and then just to see what happens. I get more for curiosity, and it does work. You do get more of a reach and an audience, but at the same time, it's like it's not as authentic enough. And what you were saying with the leverage you kind of have by me having the podcast is, it took me a long time to work it out, but it's like, for what reason would someone want to give away their time, to work with anyone? Like, what is it that makes people want to come together? It's because they are able to offer a service, and what the podcast is, it's a service for people to have long format conversation.
That is very true.
Yeah, and that is a very fortunate thing that is helping my network grow. It's how I was able to have this conversation with you today. It's how I'm going to be able to keep having them in the future. It's because there's actually, and it's not like I'm necessarily valuable, but the valuable thing is actually being able to share a long format conversation for both people. Networking's a beautiful tool. Yeah,
very true. And it's quite funny that you say that. You know how we were talking about acting earlier, acting in TV shows, films, etc. This is a TV show.
Yeah, I know.
Right? This is the modern day TV.
I know.
What people watch nowadays. People are slowly moving away from films, television, and they're focusing on to podcasts because it's so much more authentic and people have interesting stories to share, right? I feel that's one big thing that you learn from people is their stories. And it goes back to the ancient times when we were barbarians. The way they all built relationships back then was through sharing stories.
Yeah, definitely. I never thought about that. True. That's probably the oldest form of human connection other than like, survivalist instincts when it comes to like protection and sharing and offspring and intimacy. But when everything was comfortable for the first time, the first thing people probably started to do was talk,
That's right.
It's so primal at the end of the day. It's
is
as primal as possible. And you're right. Like the podcast, in even like any podcast, but I'm referring to the Doxcast, is a show, and it's like the characters of the shows are authentic, real life individuals, which is not something that we've ever really experienced in society in the past. We might have had TV news segments and interviews along those lines, which were never really a two-sided conversation. It was only ever really a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a dogma, like a narrative that was trying to get pushed at the end of the day. But really, podcasts are shows. I look at it like it's a show. I look at it like every episode is a new week's episode, and no matter how I'm feeling that morning, no matter what's going on in my personal life, like whenever the podcast is booked in, that's when the show must go on, and put everything aside, focus on the job at hand. Like, it's a full job. Like it's actually fun.
It is. Yeah, and you're investing into your content at the end of the day, and in order to get yourself out there, you need to be able to put on like a quality production nowadays.
Yeah.
Where before a lot of people were using InShot. I don't know if you heard of that.
No, I'm not sure.
So it's like the oldest form of people putting out advertisement or content. And I had like the old school like writing on there. That was before they had the subtitles as well. And something like that, even if it was kind of blurry, you would get like over 200 to 300 leads from doing that.
Yeah.
But now to put yourself out there, even if it's just content, you need quality production to be able to put yourself out there and be able to serve people at the highest level.
Yeah, it's also to be able to capture people's attention because
100%.
it's been apps like TikTok and these new features of Instagram Reels that are beneficial in order to create more audience, but it's also taking away a lot of the leniency that people might have in terms of what they're willing to give away their time to. And I know that being a consumer myself, when I had TikTok and I had to delete it because I just got too addicted to it, I would scroll and within 0.5 of a second, I've checked how many likes, how many comments, the name, the song they've used, and I've seen how much quality the video has, and not worth my time. It's like you know what I mean? It's that quick and easy now.
Yeah,
So
it is.
you kind of have to have the high quality lighting, all these things, and at the end of the day, it does help. It makes the conversations feel a bit more authentic as well, in the weirdest kind of way.
It does. It's
Yeah.
funny. And you only have like 3 to 5 seconds to capture someone's attention too,
Yeah, I know.
which is ridiculous.
It's a beast. It's a beast. Social media beast. How do you find your guests to sit down with now that you've picked it up again? And before we answer that, first I should have asked what made you decide to start doing it again since taking the break?
Well, obviously, I got into the world of acting and I felt like I couldn't really share what I'm doing, especially if you go into like a job, for example, a commercial or a short film. You can't really post anything yet until it's out.
Yeah.
So you're constantly hiding it, and I felt like I wanted to be able to entertain people in some way by being able to share stories. And for the longest time, I've been thinking, okay, how am I going to be able to create content in order to be able to entertain people? So I was looking at all these different like productions on YouTube, and I was thinking to myself, what about podcasting? Nah, forget about it. I don't want to get back into podcasting.
Yeah. Why? Why did you first have the initial reaction like, nah, I don't want to do it?
Because I felt like I've already done that, and I feel like if I went to do it again, I'll be going backwards. It was more of like a ego thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then eventually I came down to it, and I was like, you know what? If I want to be able to entertain people and be able to build an audience to help them to become a better version of themselves, I need to start a podcast. It's just the easiest way to do it, and I've done it before. I might as well get started. So a week later, I ended up booking my first guest and just started from there.
Yeah, yeah. And where was because I noticed now, and I didn't even really notice this until recently, that you're filming out of Better Media.
Yes,
Yeah.
for the past 3-4 episodes.
Yeah, because I think I first saw you when you did the Dating with Sarah.
Dating with Sarah Javon.
Yeah, and
That was in Adelaide.
Yeah, I had a little bit of communication with her as well. Is she in Adelaide or?
She's in Adelaide.
Yeah, I think that might have been why it fell apart in the first place, because I was actually keen to get her on the podcast, but then I think that's how I found you. And then since now I've seen that you're doing Nick's studio at the same time, which is like, fuck, it's the world is getting smaller and smaller. The more I start to do this,
It
it's
is.
crazy.
It's funny. It doesn't matter what world you're in. The world is smaller than you think,
Yeah,
right? Like, obviously doing wrestling, I was able to train alongside and even help Rob Whittaker, Alex Volkanovski, all those guys, just because you're in that world.
yeah.
And a lot of people think they'll be hard to be able to connect with them. It's really not. It's just because you're not part of that world.
Wow.
And that's the same way you're figuring out with podcasting, to be able to connect with these high influential people isn't too hard. You just need to stay consistent and put yourself out there, and eventually you're going to meet these people and be able to have like interesting conversations with them.
Yeah. And I'm having as many interesting conversations as possible week to week basis as well. And the people, it's like I'm at the point now where I'm really evaluating like, who do I really want to have on? Like I originally wanted to, when I started, like these, I used to listen to a lot of Aussie rap and stuff like that. So I was looking up to a lot of these rappers growing up as a teenager, thinking one day I want to be able to meet these people. And then I start podcasting, it's like they're the initial first dream guests I have, right? And then, you know, you start to dive deep into like, oh, these TV personalities or these celebrities. And then now I'm thinking to myself, like, they're just everyday people at the end. Like, there's nothing about them that are so much better than anyone else I could be having conversations with at the end of the day, you know? So if it's as easy to have conversations with people that I'm friends with, it must be just as easy to have conversations with these people. I just need to be in the right rooms in the first place.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's all about who you surround yourself with at the end of the day. And kind of goes back to what I was saying about millennial success. I think that was the biggest wake-up call, is these guys have 2 arms, 2 legs, and they're human just like us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's sick. It would have been awesome having conversations with billionaires. That's insane.
I think there was 2 people that really inspired me. One of them was Peter Torton. So he owns about 32,000 gyms in 28 different countries.
Oh my
He was the
God.
founder of Snap Fitness.
Yeah, wow.
So he done the interview in his penthouse in Miami, and you just saw this.
32,000 gyms.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Bruh.
Yeah,
If I had $32,000, I'd be like, I made it.
that's it, 100%. Oh man, and
Wow.
another one was Iman Gutsi. He was interesting as well.
Yeah.
So he built a school in Nepal at the age of 21 years old.
Wow.
He's already built that much success.
Wow. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is inspiring. And how are you finding your guests today to do your episodes with? How do you even...
Just
what-
cold message.
Cold
Yeah.
message. That's what I do too, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's the easiest way to be able to communicate with people nowadays.
Yeah.
And like you said, you have a podcast where you can leverage off it to be able to get these guests on and be able to have good conversations with them.
Yeah. What's some of the mad, awesome things that and it must have been different going from doing online to in person. Have you, as the same question I asked before, I guess, with the acting as well, was it what you were expecting it to be, or is it different?
It's exactly what I expected it to be, because I feel like you can only get so far with online conversations, where I feel with in-person podcasts, it's more intimate.
Yeah.
You have the person there, you can actually see them, have a conversation with them, you can read their body language and connect with them in a different way, where you can't really do that online.
Yeah.
You only can do it in a certain degree of it,
Yeah.
I found.
Yeah. And how does the journey look like for you in terms of personal development? Obviously, you said you felt inspired by talking to some of these high, successful, achieving 32,000 gym owning individuals, but is it different doing it in person in a form of self-development, or is it the same kind of journey?
I feel the hardest thing about the in-person journey is obviously getting your guest in,
Yeah.
where online, remote is so easy. You just have to do it online.
Yeah.
So being able to get guests in was probably just the hardest part, but it's something that I'm working out over time to be able to get like all these guests in, and or being able to go traveling, because I'm going to Melbourne next week to do an interview, but I'm actually going there to coach first, but then do the interview.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah, next week I'll be speaking to Richard Norton. So he was Chuck Norris's best man at his wedding,
Oh my God.
and he done like 4 movies with Jackie Chan as the main villain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel if you're in someone's city, it's kind of easy as well to be able to sit down and talk with them. But if you were far away from the person you want to talk to, then it's quite hard.
Yeah. And then
In that way.
we just need to, as podcast hosts ourselves, we just need to create more of an incentive for the person to come on
That's
than
right.
just a platform in which they can speak openly. Has to kind of be a bit more beneficial, I guess, for those people to make that long distance travel.
That's it.
I found when I first started, I was doing cold call messages in the beginning, and I was getting messages back from like influencers and stuff like, "Yo, if you want, it costs money, $1,000 here, $1,000 there." I'm thinking, and it's not worth spending $1,000. You know, I'd rather just build the platform, however long it takes for it to get to a position, and eventually you'll pay me.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. How do you find your guests then? Because to reach out to someone like Chuck Norris's best man at his wedding, like I would never even have that idea in the first place.
Okay, so it's kind of weird because this is when I was working on The Fall Guy, and I was wearing my Commonwealth Games shirt, and the guy saw that I had cauliflower ears, and this guy done the effects for The Matrix, Star Wars, and a few other big productions. He just came up to me as like one of the extras, and he was like, "Hey, you're a wrestler?" Yeah, I do wrestling. And we just started talking, and he's like, you're such a cool guy. I'm going to introduce you to this guy. So he introduced me to the main fight choreographer for Deadpool 2, John Wick, and what was that? The Fall Guy. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to introduce you to another guy. He's Richard Norton. So he was Chuck Norris's best man at his wedding, and he's an actor. He runs his own studio in Melbourne. I think he'll be a great contact for you.
Damn.
Yeah. So I remember I reached out to him and told him that I know this person. It's like, okay, give me your number. I'll give you a call to give you advice about acting.
Yeah.
So I just remember having a coffee, and I was trying this thing called Lion's Mane.
Yeah, I know Lines, man.
Yeah, I tried it for the first time
Yeah.
that very day, and I got this clarity like you wouldn't believe. Like, obviously, clarity is power. And he ended up calling as soon as I had that, and we had a deep level conversation. He gave me great advice on how to become an actor. And in just recent times, I was going to interview another athlete who was a 3-time Olympian, but obviously she's in Hawaii at the moment. So I was thinking to myself, who can I interview? And I was speaking to one of my acting friends. You should interview Richard Norton. He's based out of Melbourne. It's like, I know Richard Norton.
Yeah.
I just need to reach out to him and book a podcast, and that's what I did. So I just texted him. It's like, are you interested in being on my podcast? He said yes, and we just organized a time and a place.
Yeah, damn, Darrow. It's who you know. That's amazing. You've really created these opportunities in front of you. You know, obviously they're a blessing at the same time. They're a gift coming from God, which you do pray for, which I'm going to get to soon. But you are taking advantage of these opportunities that you've been given at the same time. You know,
Absolutely.
That's powerful, man. That's powerful. It's definitely inspiring me to start taking more leaps and stepping out of my comfort zone, because I live a pretty routine life that doesn't allow much interaction with people other than cold calling. But it's definitely time to start putting myself out there and start ticking off some of these bucket list ideas I've got.
Yeah, even take that risk of, for example, traveling into state just to interview someone.
Yeah.
I think that takes a lot of guts, and it helps you step out of those boundaries to be able to progress forward.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I want to talk definitely about wrestling at the moment for now. And 10 years you said it took from when you decided to do it until you were at the position in which you're going for Commonwealth Games. You got into it obviously because of WWE and you know that story of dressing up as the Undertaker is amazing. Was it the Undertaker?
Yeah, the Undertaker.
Yeah, that's so jokes. I'm gonna be thinking about that for the rest of today. Once you started doing it, why did you keep doing it?
I just fell in love with the sport. Like, it's physically the hardest sport you can do, right? Because you're physically engaged with someone for 6 minutes straight. So the moment you pull away from the contact, you get called for passivity. And the biomechanics of the way you move in wrestling is so different to any other sport you would do. And because of that challenge, it kind of brought me into the passion of doing the sport.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and achieving certain success, winning nationals and a few other competitions. I wanted to be able to represent Australia at the Olympic Games. So I think for the past 10 years, I had the aim to make Commonwealth Games first. And I just stuck to training every single day because I knew if I missed a day of training, wrestlers that are training overseas are going to get that advantage over me. And I didn't want any advantage over me. So I was always trying to figure out how to become better. So if I wasn't training wrestling, I was watching it on YouTube, studying the best wrestlers in the world and how they wrestled. So I used to do a lot of breakdowns on them and, okay, how can I find new techniques on what they're doing so I can use it to my style? So it's a matter of becoming obsessed with your craft.
Yeah.
And when you build that obsession with your craft, you're going to go down a path where you're going to progress so much quicker, right? So it's a matter of how much time you're willing to invest in order to achieve a certain amount of success. And I was willing to invest everything I had into wrestling. So I spent my parents, because I was only a kid, spent probably over $60,000 to $80,000 on my wrestling to travel overseas and compete and do all these amazing things and be able to connect with Olympic champions, world champions. It really set me up to help me get the results I wanted and to become the person I am today.
Yeah, definitely. And what type of traveling experiences did you get to experience in doing so?
So with wrestling, I've probably traveled over about 30 different countries
Wow.
through my teenage years.
Wow.
Yeah, so the time I was 20, I already almost hit about 40 countries.
Oh my God. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah,
Far
30 for
out.
wrestling, and then 40 is more like those stopovers. And we had those long stopovers for about like 11, 12 hours, and we used to just get out of the airport, look around.
I count those.
Yeah, same.
I got a couple of those. Yeah, I've been to Singapore.
Yeah, Singapore is amazing.
Yeah, Singapore was a nice country. It's like Malaysia. I think I got stuck in Malaysia last time for like something like 15 hours or something. And I'm like, yeah, I've been to Malaysia. Like, it's all right.
It's all right.
Didn't leave the airport.
It's sticky.
Yeah, damn, bro. What an experience you got to have. Well, thank God for your parents' investment into just. Did they invest because they could see how passionate you were, or did they invest because they. How do I say this? Because it was the easiest. It was easy enough for them just to be like, do it, or was it because of your passion and how much you were interested that made them want to be able to?
Yeah, it's definitely to do with my passion and how much I was investing into it. They were my biggest supporters, even though at the time when I was younger, not many people were supporting me. And a lot of people think I was just going to quit in 2 or 3 years and I wasn't going to go far with wrestling. But I saw the end goal. Yeah. I knew where I wanted to get to. And eventually down the line, when I started to really show results and show that I'm actually becoming a great wrestler, people jumping on the hype train.
Yeah.
When they see you achieving a certain amount of success.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, this is advice for anyone. Obviously, we're all going to suck at the beginning and not many people are going to believe us. But if you stay consistent with whatever you're doing and you become obsessed with your craft, people are going to eventually jump on board and start believing in you. And I'm just blessed that my parents believed me from day one.
Yeah.
Supported me.
The older I get, the more I'm starting to understand what a lot of people spoke on. How old are you?
31.
31? You're 31?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I thought you look young. I thought you could have been like 26, 27.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, damn. Growing up, people always said, when you leave school, you lose a lot of friends and you realize who's important in your life and who's not. And I'm 25 now and I've spent 24 of my years disbelieving that to be true. So since leaving school for 10 years, because I left at like 14, 15, I've still held on to every friend I've ever made from preschool. I've still got friends to primary school, to caravan parks, to holidays, to daycare centers, to multiple different high schools. Like, I struggle letting go of people because I find so much enjoyment in human interaction in general. I'm a very codependent kind of person. I need conversation. But now I'm at an age now where I really do understand, and it's only, I wouldn't say hardship, but it's only clarity that can really give you this perspective that my mum and my dad are the only real supporters that have been there the entire time. And I've never not known that, but I've always thought I've got everyone else alongside with them. But it's undeniably true that mum and dad are the only real rocks you've got, other than yourself. And if you're not fortunate enough to be the type of person that has got your parents, there's obviously been someone along the way who has been a caregiver in some regard. But other than yourself, I've got my mum and my dad. You know what I mean? And I love that. Like, if I'm going through shit, I just can't wait to come talk to my mum about it. I'm not going to reach out to the boys.
They're literally your best friends. And if you have siblings as well, they're your biggest supporters as well.
Yeah.
So my sister is a wrestler as well. And I got to share the journey with her.
Awesome.
Because she went to Commonwealth Games as well. And yeah, it was pretty cool to be able to share those moments with my sister.
Yeah, that is awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
With this journey in wrestling, I know obviously you've had many of experiences traveling. Was traveling just to compete, or did traveling also include training?
Training as well. So a lot of training camps as well as competing. I remember...
Sorry, I was going to say, what made the traveling necessary in order to get did they not have the training needing here, like facilities here?
Yeah, it's kind of different overseas, where in Australia, being an athlete or doing a specific sport, is more of a hobby here. But if you go to places like Russia, Iran, or different parts of like communist countries, that's how they put bread on the table. You are wrestling people that do it to survive.
Damn.
And when you put yourself in that element, you either sink or swim. So from there, being able to wrestle and train with those people helped my wrestling get better.
So you went and trained in training facilities in Russia and Iran.
I didn't get to go to Iran, but like, yeah, pretty much around the Russian region of
Yeah.
for wrestling, like
Yeah.
Bulgaria, Azerbaijan, etc. That's where like the wrestling is going to help you
That
actually
is
progress.
Insane. That's
Yeah.
such a mad mission that most people will never get to even experience the travel, let alone enjoy the lifestyle. That's a blessing in itself. What about Commonwealth Games leading up to doing that for the first time? How many years ago was it?
Okay, so when I started until I made Commonwealth Games?
Yeah, so like when was your first opportunity to compete in Commonwealth Games?
Okay, so back in 2008, I got the privilege to be able to compete at the Commonwealth Youth Games. So back then I was 16. Obviously, all we had to do there was win nationals and a competition called Australia Cup to be able to go. So I knew in me already, my coaches knew, training partners were all going to make the Commonwealth Games. So 3 of my team members, including me, we made the Commonwealth Games and represented Australia, which was a great experience. But that was just a stepping stone in order to progress forward to making the actual Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was quite a journey, because from there, after we finished the Commonwealth Games, I didn't get the result I wanted. Made me so much more hungrier to be able to train harder. So I picked up my training to 2 to 3 times a day. And then I went to the Commonwealth Championships in 2010. Ended up coming second in that. And that was like a big confidence booster for me to go to nationals and go to the qualifications there and a few other ones to be able to make the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
When you have such a big moment of showcase to, you know, truly express everything that you've been working towards, does intensity increase during that time, or is it something like, which I hear that I hear this from UFC fighters too. Some people say they're always fight ready. It's the term I always hear, but I don't know if that means that when something big is coming up, like a Commonwealth Games or a champion, like things need to dial in even harder.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So training is always evolving, right? From day one, you're just developing the foundations to the point eventually down the line, you're preparing for a UFC fight, or for my example, was the Commonwealth Games. So stepping into training for the Commonwealth Games, I had to train like I haven't before. So I had to pick up the intensity of it to be able to be at that level to compete at the Commonwealth Games, because I was only 17, turning 18 at that time. So I was actually the youngest wrestler in the competition.
Wow.
So, yeah, I went over to Japan. I was living there for a month or 2 just to be able to prepare for the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, damn. Wow. Being such a long endeavor, like 10 years plus, along that journey, did you have points in which you thought, I don't really want to be doing this anymore, or you do hesitate not giving up, but like at least of taking a different path and trying something new?
Yeah, I remember I was preparing myself for the Olympic Games back in 2011, 2012. So before that, I didn't want to have any relationships. I just wanted to focus everything on wrestling because I was obsessed.
Yeah.
And the time I went to Canada, I ended up meeting a girl there, ended up getting into a relationship. And from there, like, obviously, we had many great adventures together. I was wrestling better than I ever was. I was, like, beating some good wrestlers. And I remember I was in the process of actually making the Olympic Games. And I was winning every competitions I needed to win. And then I competed at the Oceanias back in Sydney, Australia. So I was at Sydney Uni.
Yep.
Best performance I've ever had. And I just remember that very night, I was talking to my girlfriend at the time, and I was like, yes, I did it. Now there's only one more competition I need to go to be able to make the Olympics. And then I saw she was sad. So I was asking her, like, what's wrong? And I had to kind of influence her to be able to open up to me. And that's when she broke up with me on the day I won that gold medal. So I went through a downward spiral, confused, like I didn't know what I did wrong. So what I did, I ended up going back to Canada. And when I went back to Canada, obviously I had a conversation with her, but I was stuck there for a bit. And being there, it was off season, so I had no training. For that month in preparations for the final qualifiers, I didn't really train. And I was stuck in my head thinking about how the relationship ended and is there something wrong with me? And I wanted to quit wrestling. And then I competed at the qualifiers in Morocco, and I felt so weak and I felt powerless where I couldn't perform. And I just remember after I lost both my matches, I threw tables and chairs, I was swearing, confused, crying, and I felt like I failed. And from that couple of years moving forward, I just wanted to get out of the sport, which I eventually did for a good year. And yeah, I think from there, I really wanted to know what it was like to live a mediocre type of lifestyle, like just hang out with friends and just work a 9-to-5 job. And when I got into there, I was like, I know this isn't like for me. I hyped it up to be something so much more than what it is.
Yeah.
And I ended up starting like coaching again for like the next 4 years or 3 years. And then I started competing again back in 2019.
Yeah. I know exactly what that feels like, to be honest. And it's something that I've gone through in my own life as well, where you feel like everything's going perfect and everything's going great. You've got your dreams in front of you. You've got the progression that's come from the consistency that you've put in before. You're making money. You're achieving goals. You see the steps that are so close in the future that all this hard work's getting paid towards, and you've got the girl at the same time. Like, you're absolutely on top of the world. And then when you lose one of those things, it might not just be the girl. It might be the competition. It might be the job. It might be the financial. It might be the comfort. Like, you can lose something, but from my experience as well, it was also losing the relationship. You kind of question, like, what do I want more? Do I want the relationship? Do I want this long-term endeavor of commitment, or do I want to chase my dreams? Like, it's almost like you get stuck with an ultimatum, at that point. What do I do? And it kind of made me realize in that moment, like, it made me question whether you can have everything, whether you can be a high-achieving, high-functioning, successful individual and also be a family man at the same time. Like, it really puts it into perspective. And I think looking back now, like, I think that I have the hindsight that, like, you can do both. You can. It might not have just worked out in that relationship, and in a weird way, and I know that you're a believer yourself, you do pray to God and you ask the universe for things. It's almost like you're given these things as little tastes. That's the way I'm seeing it now. Like, it's a little, Salt Bay, how he does that thing with his salt. You know what I mean? That's God, like, just showing you, like, and because he shows us in ways of, like, this is what can come from consistency and growth and commitment, and your goals are just around the corner and you're going to get everything that you want and achieve. But at the same time, even though we're not asking for relationships as well, he's also sprinkling that at the same time, because you are being the best versions of yourself. And it might not have been the time for the relationship, but it's a little taste of what you can look forward to if you keep going. It's so weird, because when you're in that moment, you're like, man, like, life sucks. This is the worst fucking possible situation. Yeah.
So true. And there's that famous saying, success leaves clues.
I've never heard that saying. I like that. Success leaves clues. Yeah, it's definitely true. What made you realize that mediocre life of 9 to 5 every day working? Why did you hype it up in the first place? Like it was going to be something so cool.
I think obviously it goes back to social media beast and seeing people enjoy their life, and I just knew who Justin the athlete was, and I didn't know who I was as a person. So I needed that year to discover myself and figure out who I am as a person.
And what did you learn in that year? Because I'm only going to imagine what it was like, because I know what it feels like to kind of have to find yourself again. And it is, in my opinion, a lonely point in life where you don't have a passion, like you don't have a purpose almost in a way, and you're kind of looking for stuff to bring you back, and you're kind of just grabbing anything that can like keep you going. What did you learn about yourself through that year?
I felt I knew I didn't want to be living that lifestyle where I was stuck working in a factory, and I wanted to do something more with myself. And it's like what you said, I was attaching on anything I can get my hands onto. So unfortunately, I was in a toxic relationship that kind of brought me down a lot more, and I was depressed for like 2 years. I was at the point where I felt like I wanted to commit suicide. And I felt like from that relationship, it really taught me to be able to set boundaries and stand up for yourself. And from there as well, that's when I started going back into watching The Secret and reading the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and started going through a personal development journey. So I've always wanted more in life, and I never wanted to be able to be stuck like what most people are, doing things that they don't enjoy. I want to be an old man telling his grandkids that I got to do this, this, and this. I don't want to be that person saying, if only I did this.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing that caused that change to help me become a better person.
I've got a few things to point out along that as well. Like, I think that one of the most important things about any relationship is that you learn what you want. You really find the value in what your characteristics that you are looking for in a partner. But just as importantly, you learn what you don't want as well. You know, like to be honest, that might be more valuable in my experience, to know what you don't want than to know what you want. Because most of the time, I don't know what I want. You know, I just know what I don't want. I think one of my best mates, Damo, shout out to Damo, he once hit me with a quote, and it was the first podcast I ever filmed. It was episode 1. He told me that he doesn't want to live a life that's ordinary. He wants to be extraordinary. And that's a beautiful characteristic trait. Lately, Damo, you've been lacking. You've been ordinary as fuck. So get back up and get at it. But that's obviously a characteristic trait that you have as well. You know, you want to be extraordinary. You just want to live extraordinary, and to be the old man and envision a future in which you can give wise wisdom down is what I imagine too. And it's the difference between a leader and a ruler, because a ruler can sit in command and tell people what to do, but a leader is sets by example. And to be able to tell offspring and children and grandchildren things like, you can achieve whatever you want, you kind of have to do it. You know, you can't just be like, oh, I could have got everything I want, but I didn't. You know, you got to do it.
It's very true, and a lot of us tend to stay plateaued, and we don't want to experience change. But the thing is, if you don't change, everything around you is going to change except you, and you're going to fall behind. That's why we need to be able to change and evolve to be able to progress forward. Experience the hardship at first so we can experience more easier life later years to come, right?
Yeah.
Rather than if you experience an easy life now, you're going to have a hard life later down the track.
Yeah.
So you rather set yourself up for success, but not only success, create fulfillment along the way. What brings you joy? Because success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure, right?
Yeah.
So if you can focus on being able to balance the two, you're living an extraordinary life. As long as you're willing to always evolve as a person.
Yeah, it's take risks. I think that the quote I like, it says something along the lines of, enjoy now to suffer later, or suffer now to enjoy later. But both of those quotes, I believe, are wrong. I believe you have to enjoy the fact that you're not where you want to be and you're on your way there. Like it's got nothing to do with suffer now, because like I've been in that mindset where I've just like, I'm going to suffer for the next 2 years, 5 years, 7 years doing things I don't want to do, because at the end of that road, like I'm going to be happy. But like the science behind it is people who build characteristic traits do not change after 10 years. They stay that way for the rest of their life. You have to, if you want to be the type of person that enjoys his free time now, you have to enjoy it now, because you won't later. Same goes for vice versa. If you don't enjoy grinding now, you won't enjoy grinding later. You have to balance it for the entire road. And it's what Kevin Hart's maddest quote that I've been hearing him do for a few years now is, get comfortable being uncomfortable. I love Kevin Hart.
He's great.
Yeah, it's such a great one. I want to touch into this spirituality conversation as well. Obviously, you've mentioned things like manifestation, and you've also mentioned a belief in God as well. Usually people are only one side of either coin. They're not usually both. I personally see both as one coin. You know, I understand it's one coin. But what's your relationship with spirituality? How's it grown to evolve? Where's it come from?
Well, everything happens through God, right? And God leaves messages in our hearts. It's our job to be able to listen to our hearts, and he gives us this vision to see where we could potentially be in the future, but he never shows us the destination of how we're going to get there. So because the greatest gift God has given us is perspective and choices, right?
Yeah.
So we have the choice to be able to create a plan for our future by writing things down, manifesting on how we're going to get there, and going out, and most importantly, take action to be able to reach that end destination, right?
Yeah.
But there's always going to be obstacles along the way, and God's always going to leave trials. So God has this big plan that none of us understand. We're just little fish in a big pond.
No, not even, bro. I'm bacteria swimming around in the ocean. Yeah. I find that, like, and I like the way you said that too, God does speak to us through our hearts. I've never had that consideration, because I look at it as in God speaks to me through my stomach. Like and I never really thought about it until now, that the envision that I have and my desires, that is God's gift. I've been looking at it from a sense of God just tells me when it's the wrong idea, and that's through my stomach. I know when it's a bad decision. I know this isn't right. Something doesn't feel good about this environment or about this decision that I'm going to make, and I feel like that's God saying, like, you know. But it's that choices as well that you said God gives us, which is the beauty in free will. We are given and I struggle to even understand it, so I'm going to try and intellect it. We are capable of projecting the world around us that we want to be living in at the same time as consuming it. Like that's hard enough for me to understand. And we are writing our own story that God allows us to create, but we also have the free will in order to fuck it up if we want to, you know.
That's
like,
right.
And that's a beautiful gift. Like as a parent, when anyone has kids, and you want to be able to give them any opportunity they want to be able to be as happy as possible, but you're never going to be like, yeah, I'm going to let you fuck your life up at the same time, you know? And that's almost control, you know? It's slavery in a way, but it's for the best. But we also have the freedom to be like, all right, God, at any point, please give me the guidance, the messages I need to see in order to get to a better place. And we can still choose to be like, I don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I think that we all tend to wrestle God, like Jacob in the Bible, right? And he was the one who wrestled God the hardest, to the point he ended up surrendering and give his will to God. So obviously us as humans, we tend to wrestle with God all the time, and we tend to believe we're right and he's wrong,
Yeah.
which leads us into a path of a downward spiral. So I know there's something in us humans that we need to fuck up real bad in order for us to learn the lesson.
Yeah.
Is if we don't, then we're not going to learn anything from there.
Yeah. That I went through that in the last 6 weeks. So by the time this episode comes out, let's call it like just 2 months ago or 2.5 months ago, something like that. If everyone listening who knows me in my personal life, but I went through what I would consider to be a pretty life-changing situation, and I spent the first couple of weeks thinking like, man, why me? Like, why do I have to go through this shit? And it's like I'm almost pissed off at God, like even though it sounds harsh and it even feels weird to say, but I was pissed off at the universe. It's easier for me to say. Pissed off at the universe for me to be given the situations. It's like, man, I feel like I try my best to be a good person. And it's like, this isn't fair. It's just not fair. But only a few weeks after, I thought to myself, like, I would not have been able to have this perspective if I didn't get given that challenge. Like, there's no possible way I could have ever come to this clarity and realization and accountability for things that I might not have even thought I needed to take accountability for. You know, like we get pretty stuck as humans of going down a pretty self-believing, egotistical mindset. You know, we believe, we're crushing it, we're killing it, everything we do is good, I'm nice to people, I'm high achieving, blah blah, I'm sweet, I'm great, I'm perfect. And then every now and then it's like
Slap in the face.
yeah
Know exactly what you mean.
yeah. How has your relationship with God, the universe, or even evolved over time, or have you always had such a strong belief?
I've always had a strong belief in God, even though there's been times where like I haven't prayed or connected with God for a long time, but I always had that belief he was there. And he's the one who sets me in this path of doing wrestling, getting back into podcasting. For the longest time, I felt in my heart, you have a gift to share. You have a voice you can use in the world of podcasting. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I wrestled to the point I was like, okay, I have to give in.
Yeah.
Like, if this is your will, I trust in you, and you can lay down the path for me, and I surrender to you completely.
Yeah.
And from there, once you do surrender, things tend to flow in abundance.
Yeah.
As long as you don't get too attached to the outcome.
Yeah.
And you trust in his plan.
Yeah.
And there's going to be times where we're going to be trialed. And let's just see how far we've come in the process of things. But as long as we still trust in him and have faith, everything is going to be okay. And I feel my relationship with God now has been stronger than it's ever been.
That's awesome. And that moment in which you were explaining to me before you started doing the podcast originally, when you were at Loom, what was that place called? Loom. You're on the beach there looking at the full moon.
Oh, La Perouse.
La Perouse, yeah. Where is La Perouse?
La Perouse is near Botany Bay.
Okay. I was trying to imagine where it was. That's why I couldn't remember what La Perouse. That moment of surrendering, which is what a lot of people call it, where you say, like, I don't know, like, show me, please, guide, help me, like, what am I meant to be doing? It's just a shift in the mind from going, I'm going to continue my path, and I'm now open to the opportunities that have always been there in the first place. You're now open-minded to walk through doors. And that's why when your friend, and it's like, which one came first? Was he always going to call, and it was that shift in the mindset to allow you to go down that avenue? Or was it only the fact that you prayed in the first place that made him call the next day? Like, these are things we'll never know, but it's two in the same thing, you know? It's actually the same. It's exactly the same thing, you know? And it's moments like that make me question why anyone cannot have a belief in the first place. You know, it's everyone who is a believer has accounts like that. Every single person has a testimony, you know?
They do.
Yeah.
It just made me reflect on one thing as well, like, as well as that story. I remember there was a point I was just doing a little bit of wrestling coaching, and I was working in disability, and I was just like talking to God in my head. I was like, I want to be able to start my own business. I just don't know how. Straight away, I get a text from one of my friends. He's like, he was obviously the fitness director at one of the gyms. He's like, I see you becoming a personal trainer.
Yeah.
So why don't you just do your course and become a PT under me?
Yeah.
And I went down that path just because I asked for it, but I was in a point where I was surrendering myself and not being attached.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like we'll never know which one is the first one or if they're happening simultaneously. Like we'll never be able to know that, which I'm happy because it leaves more room for freedom and belief and growth. And in my life, I've had so many situations like that too, where just as a youngin', like I was probably like 14 or something or 13, I was training fighting at the time. I was doing kickboxing and stuff, and I started training at the gym because they also had a gym facility. And then I remember just like thinking to myself, like, I'm seeing so many big buff guys. And I was like, I've always been a skinny kid, but I mean, I was a skinny kid like back then. And like, I remember thinking maybe I should just get on some steroids. Like, it seems like people have been talking about, I've listened to people at the gym talk about it, blah, blah. And I kind of just like tried it for the first time because I first started going to church and no one I knew was religious in my family. And I was just open to the idea. So I just started praying in the sauna. I was like, God, I don't know. Should I do these steroids? Is this a good path? Like, is it bad? Is it healthy? What are some of the risks? As I'm saying it in my head, a guy walked into the sauna, sat down next to me, and explained to me why I should never do steroids. Like, I've never met this guy
Crazy.
before. No, I don't even know his name. Like, I never learned his name. He just started talking to some kid about it. Like, coincidence is a good word that people use to throw around there, but like, when you experience something like that, there's no such thing as coincidence anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal experience, and it's always awesome to have someone who is a high achieving, high successful, consistent, disciplined set individual like yourself to also have faith as a guider through it. You know, you're letting go of and have some ego, have some confidence in the fact that you're doing so as well, but know that it's also coming as a gift that you're just willing to accept. It's amazing.
Thank you.
What are you looking forward to going forward from now? So obviously I know you've built a life of great stories and experiences so far. What do you think and what would you like some of your next chapters to be?
So continue all my podcasts, continue to interview inspirational people as well as land more acting roles. And quite recently as well, I've gotten back into coaching again because I was at a point where I was achieving a certain amount of success where if I was to continue, I was thinking about this on the way here, I would have been running my own like apps. I would have been having a business where I don't even have to be there, but be able to help people achieve their goals. So I've been thinking lately I need to get back into that to be able to serve people in that field because God has given me a gift where I'm able to help people in a certain way where I could help people achieve their goals through like fitness and to be able to train like an athlete.
Yeah. Damn,
Yeah.
that's a mad goal too. And that also comes with automotive income as well at the same time,
Yeah.
which is kind of about 2 more steps ahead for me. I'm not really there yet, but like that's a pretty that's to be honest financial freedom at the end of the day. Automotive
Yeah,
income.
absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be sick. So is acting something that you want to try and do and like for a career?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, nice.
I would love to take it as far as I can take it, really,
Yeah,
and be able to act with extraordinary actors. I think that's every actor's goal at the end of the day, if they admit it or not.
yeah,
It's just staying consistent, and acting is a unique world where you never know if you're going to break through in the first few months or in the next 10 years. So all I know now is just stick on the path, keep training, keep auditioning, keep networking, and just trust the process, really,
yeah.
and see who I become in the process of doing all this stuff to become a extraordinary actor one day.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's so sick that you also have that proof in the experience in the past where you obviously started off shit, as you said. I'm not saying it for you. Like you said in the beginning, you weren't that great, and it took 10 years until you got to a point in which you've now got that on your bios and descriptions, you know, and you did enjoy the process. You were addicted to it, and the fruits became the benefit of the rewards you put in. And you have now got that mentality going into an entire new field that so many people wouldn't have going into a new field because they've never had that commitment to finishing a task, or sticking it through.
Yeah, absolutely.
I lived my life, most of my life, like picking something up, trying it out, getting bored, putting it back down.
Why do you feel that is?
Attention deficit at the end of the day. Like it was something that I'd never really had the power to control. Growing up, going through primary school, high school, anything, like I never did anything, to be honest. I can't lie. I never did work. I never did assessments, assignments. I never listened in class. Like there was too many other things I was willing to just think about or do, and I didn't have the capability of even committing. Maybe it wasn't the capability, but I never had the skills in order to focus and give something time, let alone effort. Because when I'd pick up a new hobby like skateboarding, I'd just go as hard as I could into it for a month, and then it's scooters, and then it's BMX, then it's parkour, then it's fighting, then it's gym, then it's I didn't listen steroids.
It's fascinating. Like after experiencing everything you've experienced from skateboarding, doing all these hobbies in high school to fighting to wanting to take steroids, what set you on the path of starting a podcast and doing about 95 episodes now?
Good question. Thank you for asking, actually. I found I got to a point in which I realized I didn't have that skill of patience. I didn't have that commitment muscle. So I forced myself to learn how to commit to anything. So I'd never been able to watch movies to completion or anything. And I made sure I sat down and I watched this movie. I did not get up. I did not turn my head. I did not get up for a drink. Like I had to force this skill as an early adult until the point of like committing to a full episode of listening to a podcast, or it was easy when I got my apprenticeship where I had to focus the entire TAFE lesson, like things like this. I really had to force it until the point where now I find it easy to commit to any long format form of commitment, like whether it be a podcast episode or whether it be a commitment to a once a week routine.
And editing as well.
And the editing, fuck the editing. Oh my God. That's something that like I've now got the skill to be able to do what I did yesterday, where it's like I cannot get up until I complete this. So I was up, say, from like 3 p.m. to 1 a.m., like until I got every possible clip, edit, reel, photo, image, every YouTube description, all of it was done in the one session. Like I've now learnt that skill. And it's funny because I've now learnt, like, because I think it's a good idea to speak to a psychologist, because I do find mental health to be something that everyone should look after.
Agreed.
So since speaking to a psychologist, he's kind of opened my eyes to being like, you've never really got rid of that trait that you had as a kid. You've just redefined it and you're using it in other ways. And I'm like, oh shit, I never realized that, dude. Like, oh man. And yeah, so I'd say it wasn't something that I necessarily found easy to do, but I forced myself to have the skills to do something like that.
It's fascinating. And like before I was talking about running a podcast and you were asking me what I learned through these other successful entrepreneurs, and it's amplifying what you're already good at and sticking to that, and what you are not actually good at, you pass on to somebody else when obviously you're ready to do so. So it's interesting to see how far you've come as well, and how far you can potentially go with this. And I think if that's one thing I could say to you from what I've learned from other successful entrepreneurs, is that just amplify what you already do well and stick with it.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate that. I will continue to do this, because I do find it to be the most fulfilling adventure I've ever gone down in my life. There's nothing better than having long format conversations with interesting people. Like it's the best. I couldn't ask for a better life. If I can do this once a week for the rest of my life, I've got weekly therapy, got weekly motivation, I've got weekly boosts of encouragement. I get interesting stories. Like it's like, to be honest, it's all I need to do for the rest of my life.
Absolutely. And like we spoke about earlier, success isn't a overnight thing. It takes years in the process, right? So somewhere down the line, if it's tomorrow or next year or the next 3 years, this was eventually going to be a business for you.
Yeah.
Like a full-time business where you get paid on YouTube, for Spotify, you'll be getting a lot of sponsors your way, and you no longer have to do the other things you don't enjoy anymore. You can dedicate your time to podcasting, which is outstanding.
Yeah, yeah. It is something that I'm looking forward to. I've always known it's going to be something that I work on. If it takes 10 years, I plan to getting to that 10-year point and being able to transition easy without taking the financial losses to be able to do this, because I continue to grow inside of my career. But I'm at the point now where it's like, if it never makes money, whatever, like I'm just happy to keep doing it. That feels better. Feels
Absolutely.
Better. Yeah.
Well, you have to be willing to do it for free in the beginning until eventually it becomes a career for you, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people tend to drop off early just because of that reason that, oh, I'm not achieving a certain amount of success and I'm not really getting that many views. I might as well just quit.
Yeah. And I can't lie, those
Yeah.
thoughts pop into head, being any form of content creator at the end of the day, like you might be looking at some numbers that have been thrashing for the last couple of weeks, couple of months, and then all of a sudden you're getting some low ball numbers again. You're like, man, like you're 10 hours into the edit and you're like, what am I doing this for? And then it only lasts a couple of seconds and you remember like, oh yeah, I enjoy it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree with that. It kind of brought me back to a lesson I learned through Tony Robbins. Sometimes you're obviously in the right path. You've reached a certain amount of success, but sometimes you're just needing to make that slight pivot with your change in order to amplify your success even more. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that changed my perspective in terms of the way I approach things. Sometimes something isn't working. I just need to pivot a little bit of a different direction in order to scale again.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. You're obviously a fan of the motivational speakers and things like this. Other than Tony
Absolutely.
Robbins, who else do you look up to?
I've listened to quite a few people over the years, so I can't think of them off from the top of my head now.
Yeah.
But
Can I list out some and tell me if you like them?
yeah, absolutely.
Do you know Jordan Peterson?
Yes, I like Jordan Peterson.
These are some of my biggest inspirations anyway.
He's with Daily Wire.
Yeah. Daily Wire is a phenomenal channel, to be
It
honest.
is.
I love Jordan. Have you ever listened to Jordan Peterson's breakdown on the books of the Bible? Like he has one,
Yes.
I think the recent one's Exodus. I think that's the last one he just did. I tried to listen to it. Honestly, it's so interesting, but I am not intelligent enough. It is so hard to understand. Like,
He's a phenomenal human being and one of a kind type of character. I love when he debated. It wasn't really a debate. It was just more of a conversation with this guy who is Islamic, but he debates a lot of Christians as well. And they had one of the most beautiful conversations about breaking down the Bible, talking about Islam.
wow. Well, I'm
good one to listen to.
going to try and find that. To be honest, I'm going to put a link in the description too if anyone wants to hear it, because I haven't listened to that before.
Yeah. Recommend it.
Yeah, I love my motivational speakers. And my most influential person I look up to at the moment is Patrick Bet-David.
I love Patrick Bet-David.
He's a freak, eh?
He is.
He's just such a...
Value entertainment.
Oh, yeah. He's just such a high-achieving individual. Like, it's... Even the way he structures his family is like goals. You know what I mean? That's the way I want to raise kids.
I think that's one thing, like what you were just mentioning about him, like everything is goals, and he relates success with numbers. Yeah. Right? But when it comes to like an intimate relationship, he has no control over that. So he takes that a day at a time. And it's like, wow, I'm definitely going to take that perspective into like relationships.
Yeah, for sure. Even what about the way he got into his relationship with his partner? He had like, I think first date, he had like 101 questions to know if they even should go on a second date.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense too, because like the journey he's on, not a lot of women will be able to comprehend and be able to go through the journey, because a lot of, I could be wrong, but there's women out there that want like their partner to be around them more frequently, where Patrick Bet-David has that freedom now to be able to do that, but he's also on a purpose. And when you're on a purpose, sometimes you have to take time away from the family in order to achieve a certain success.
Yeah. And it's something that I have struggled to come to terms with in recent endeavors in life, because even though you want to be spending all your time with your partner, you just can't. Like you can't because you are on a mission. There's things that need to get done, and if they don't get done, to be honest, you might even, if you're the type of person who feels like he wants more out of life, and you do give in to that immediate gratification of just enjoying time in the present more than what you're willing to allow, you might even resent your partner for it later. It's never a good idea to do that, you know? Like, imagine getting to that age in which you said, oh, I could have done it, you know, but I didn't. And then you blamed your love for that. Like, you know, like it does take a special kind of gal to ride with someone through the journey of success, because it's a lonely thing for the people chasing it. So it must be a lonely thing for the partners too.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I don't know about for you, but for me, I want someone to be able to share the journey with and know that I have their support.
Yeah,
as well as they have mine.
I think so too. But sharing the journey is an important part, but it's also like, I think that to be able to really reap the benefits of what life has to offer, you can't create that much free time to be able to enjoy the present moment. You can get windows of enjoyment. You can get a couple hours here, a couple hours there, maybe a day here, a day there, but really you need to be driving the whole time. You need to be fully committed to the outcome, because and that kind of relates back to what my psychologist was saying about the ADHD thing, is like you still have that tendency to want to constantly pick up something and put something down. You're just using it in a longer format where you're giving a lot of time to this thing, and as soon as that thing's over, you're now on to the next thing. There's no time to enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
like short-term celebrations and then on to the next.
Yeah, even the short-term celebrations, just get on to the next. Like, it's like whatever.
It actually helps. Like, I used to avoid that and I was just on to the next. But when you actually celebrate those little things, you feel so much more motivation to dedicate more time to that craft.
Okay.
Like, that's one thing I learned from other people that were successful as well. They celebrate those small wins.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice thing. I'm going to definitely take that into consideration as well. But yeah, I'm after to be honest, I thought I was after a girlfriend this whole time, but to be honest, like I'm after the journey, to be honest, more important. So if a girl can come along to enjoy the journey, that's cool, but like I don't know if she's going to get that much time.
How old are you?
25.
25. You're still very young.
Thank you, because I don't feel it. Thank you.
Yeah. Trust me, when you start, like, you continue going down this journey and you start to become more purpose-driven, women will be just seeking you. And they'll be seeking your validation. And they know you are a high achiever and what you're doing with your podcast and other things you're doing in your life. And they just love you for being you.
Yeah. And then that is a good thing to look forward to, and I do believe that in my soul anyway. I think that might be part of that God's guidance of what He can show me in my heart. And there is obviously that little bit of fear, like, oh, does she only want me because I'm successful? But it's not because I'm successful, and this is the thing that I've struggled to come to terms with, that I'm now understanding. It's a partner looks for someone because of the characteristics they've grown to become the person they are to that day, you know? And that growing up as a young man is hard. It took me a long time to learn that, you know? You think that a girl kind of wants to be with a successful guy because he has the money or he has the fame or whatever it is, but
in some parts, yes, but you don't want to find that type of like woman.
Yeah, you want a woman who wants the person who's become that person, not who is that person.
That's right.
Yeah, damn. I love it. That's sick. Do you have a plan for having children? Do you want to have children in the future? Or?
Yeah, definitely. But during this time, it's just continue on my purpose. And if that time comes where I feel like I'm ready to have kids, then I'll have kids.
Yeah.
But for this time being, it's just...
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, nice. That's cool. I've had to come to terms with that too. I've wanted to be a dad since I was 15.
Oh, wow.
And now I'm glad I haven't, because I could have a few times.
Is it because you're seeing like your friends having kids, or?
I don't know what it might be. I think I've always found enjoyment being an older brother. You know, I do love my younger siblings a lot. I do find codependency. I kind of want to have someone with me at all times. I like being looked up to as a role model. I like having people down to have responsibility for. I think it's just always been part of my nature to be a provider, and in that sense.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and that's why I'm so grateful I haven't done it yet, because I'm not ready.
Yeah. There's no rush. Like whenever you feel you're ready to have kids, then that's the right time.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, well, I have one final question I do want to ask you. It's the same question I do ask at the end of every episode, because it touches on a very important topic. If someone came to you because they were feeling depressed, mostly because they were just lost, what advice would you give to that person?
Well, first thing, I just want to be able to listen them out, like figure out what the problem they're actually suffering from, and be able to give them the right guidance, if to send them to a psychologist, or if I experience a similar situation to what they've experienced, then I'll share how I overcame that significant amount of depression, right? Because depression is a serious thing, and a lot of people do suffer from it. And it kind of goes back to a story from one of my friends, I won't mention his name, that he ended up becoming a alcoholic. And he was, as his morning ritual, he was just drinking alcohol every morning, first thing when he woke up. That was his form of prayer, and he was thinking about committing suicide for the longest of time. So I done everything in the books in order to help him, but none of those things helped. But to the point where I started becoming more religious again, and I wanted to build my relationship with God, I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to take him to church. So I took him to church on Easter Monday, and we sat down throughout the Mass, and at the end, the priest was holding the picture of Jesus in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And I just saw him breaking down in tears, and it's like snot was coming out of his mouth, saliva, and from then he ended up going to seek rehab.
Wow.
And now he's trying to better himself for his siblings, his parents, and just overall trying to become a better person. So I think the big thing is trying to understand the person's world and what they're going through, and try to strategize in a way to be able to communicate with them to help them with whatever they're suffering from.
Yeah, wow. That's you just made me realize something for the first time, because I hate the fact, and I've been looking for a reason to avoid this fact, that you can't help someone that doesn't want to help themselves. Like it's as pure as it is. Like I can't deny it's what the evidence is showing, because as you said, you tried everything you can along the way, and nothing would stick. And I hate that ability in myself to not being able to change someone's situation. It's like, stop doing what you're doing, dude. I know what you should be doing. But unless they want the help, they won't get it. They won't ask for it. But then when you said that, the pastor or preacher or whatever, he held up the picture of Jesus, and that made me think to myself, like, I'm not able to do it, but God can do it. Like, that's all that person needs. They need God to do it for them. Like, that completely has changed my whole narrative now. And I'm not going to go around and be like, listen, you need God right now. Like, I can't do that. It's not going to work. But that's a way into someone's heart. That's how you can change someone as an outsider.
Absolutely. And God does perform his miracles when you're ready to listen.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I guess he did take that willing step of being like, yep, okay, I'm going to come. Like that was a big step. That was his open mind starting to accept, which is nice too. But I appreciate that answer too. And I love that question, because it's a different answer every episode.
It would be.
And it's a beautiful thing, because it doesn't matter how many times someone might hear something. Sometimes it's just the right words in order for it to stick. And I've said that every episode for this will be 95. Yeah, 95. And I've said every episode, it doesn't matter how you hear something, it's just the right words for in order to stick. And the way you said that made the entire message stick to me for the first time.
That's cool.
That is cool, man. So I appreciate that. That's a blessing.
No problems. I feel if we surrender to a higher being and we trust in him, everything will start falling into place. But you just have to be willing to go out and do the work and help yourself, because at the end of the day, if you don't help yourself, you're going to be stuck in the same situation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, but I tell you what, it was a beautiful answer to wrap up what was a beautiful episode, man. I couldn't thank you enough for coming and doing it in the first place.
Thank you for having me, and it was a great pleasure speaking to you and getting to know you a bit as well.
Yeah, thank you. It's the best part about podcasts too. I don't only get to hear about you, I get to kind of vent a little bit too.
Exactly. It's like a interesting conversation where we get to get little peeks and previews on each other's lives and our journeys.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'll tell you what, I have all the faith in you in the world to keep going down this acting avenue you're going down, and I'm looking forward in the future to doing another one with you. And
absolutely. And I'm looking forward to seeing more success with your podcast as well, and seeing it to become something special.
Yeah, thank you very
problems.
much. Well, yeah, until next time, dude, I really do appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, gang. Well, for everyone listening, thank you for making it to the end of the episode. It was another amazing episode this week. There'll be another amazing episode next week. That's a wrap.
Shawty catch a ride, yeah, I had to put her on. Bought a two-seater, yeah, we headed for the sun. Shawty going high, I ain't tripping for the funds. Yeah, I won't start, I ain't tripping, I'm a stunt.